What if I told you that most men lose a woman's interest not because they say the wrong things, but because they compliment the wrong things, focusing on her looks while completely missing the parts of her that truly matter? And what if just a few carefully chosen words, spoken with calm confidence, could make her feel more connected to you than hours of trying to impress? Because the truth is, attraction isn't built through flattery, it's built through understanding. And the moment a woman feels deeply seen, not just admired, is the moment she starts falling for you without even realizing why. When you compliment a woman's mind instead of her appearance, you speak to a part of her that almost no one takes the time to notice, and that immediately separates you from the crowd, because most men focus on her body or her beauty, which she has heard 1,000 times before, and those words quickly lose meaning. But when you tell her that you admire how she thinks, how she solves problems, or how she sees situations from a unique angle, you make her feel respected rather than evaluated, and respect is the foundation of real attraction. A woman wants to feel that her thoughts matter, that her opinions carry weight, that she is more than something pleasant to look at. So when you say something like, "I like the way you explain things, you're very insightful," you activate her sense of competence and intelligence, which builds emotional safety around you, and emotional safety creates openness. She begins to relax because she doesn't feel judged or reduced. She feels understood and valued, and that feeling quietly strengthens her connection to you. Over time, she starts associating you with deep conversations, mental stimulation, and genuine interest. And those experiences stay with her far longer than any surface-level praise ever could. When you compliment a woman's strength, you touch something far deeper than simple charm, because strength speaks to her identity, not just her image, and very few people acknowledge how much pressure she quietly carries every day. Many women are used to being praised for how they look, but almost nobody recognizes how hard they work, how much they endure, or how gracefully they handle challenges. So when you notice her resilience and say something like, "I admire how you stayed calm in that situation," or "You're stronger than most people realize," it feels sincere and rare, not rehearsed or superficial. This kind of compliment tells her that you see the battles she fights behind the scenes, the responsibilities she manages, the emotional control she maintains. And that recognition makes her feel respected and understood on a deeper level. Strength-based compliments also create trust, because you are showing that you value stability and character, not just attraction, and that signals maturity and reliability, which are incredibly appealing traits. She begins to associate you with safety and support, someone who appreciates her capabilities rather than trying to rescue or belittle her, and that subtle shift makes her naturally feel closer, more open, and more emotionally connected to you without even realizing why. When you notice and compliment the small details about a woman, you communicate something far more powerful than attraction. You communicate attention, and attention is one of the rarest forms of emotional currency today. Most people listen only halfway, they forget names, overlook stories, and miss the little habits that make someone unique. So when you quietly point out something specific, like the way she always checks on her friends, the way she remembers birthdays, or how she adds thoughtful touches to everything she does, it immediately tells her that you are truly observing her, not just looking at her. This kind of compliment feels deeply personal because it cannot be copied or used on anyone else. It proves that you are present and engaged, and that level of presence makes her feel special without you ever trying too hard. Psychologically, being noticed satisfies a basic human need to feel significant, and when you meet that need, she begins to associate you with comfort and emotional warmth. Instead of feeling like just another woman receiving generic praise, she feels uniquely valued, and that uniqueness strengthens connection, builds trust, and creates a quiet intimacy that grows naturally over time without pressure or performance. When you compliment a woman's energy instead of her appearance, you shift the focus from something temporary to something deeply emotional, and that change alone makes your words feel more meaningful and memorable. Physical beauty is obvious and visible to everyone, so compliments about looks often blend together and lose impact. But energy is personal. It is about how she makes you feel when she is around, the calm she brings into a room, the warmth in her smile, or the quiet confidence in her presence. When you say something like, "I feel relaxed when I'm with you," or "You have such a peaceful vibe," you are not judging her body, you are describing your emotional experience, and that feels sincere rather than performative. Psychologically, this creates a strong association in her mind because people are drawn to those who make them feel safe and comfortable, and by expressing that she positively affects your emotions, you show vulnerability and authenticity at the same time. She begins to sense that you value her presence, not just her appearance, which lowers her guard and builds trust. And as trust grows, attraction naturally follows, because she starts to see you as someone who truly connects with her on an emotional level, rather than someone simply trying to impress her with surface praise. When you compliment a woman's authenticity, you speak directly to one of her deepest emotional needs, the need to feel accepted for who she truly is without pressure to perform or pretend. And that kind of acceptance is incredibly rare in today's world. Many women feel they must adjust themselves constantly, softening their opinions, hiding their quirks, or acting more agreeable just to be liked. So they often carry an invisible tension, wondering if the real version of them is too much or not enough. When you calmly tell her something like, "I like how real you are," or "You don't try to be someone else, and that's refreshing," it releases that tension because she senses that she doesn't have to wear a mask around you. Psychologically, this creates emotional safety, and emotional safety is the foundation of intimacy because people open up only where they feel secure. Instead of trying to impress you, she starts relaxing into her natural self, sharing more honestly, laughing more freely, and expressing her thoughts without fear of judgment. That freedom builds a deeper connection than any flashy compliment ever could, because now she associates you with comfort, acceptance, and genuine understanding, which makes her feel drawn to you in a quiet and lasting way. When you compliment a woman's effort, you recognize something most people completely overlook: the work, care, and intention she quietly puts into everything she does. And that kind of recognition feels far more meaningful than surface praise. Anyone can tell her she looks nice, but very few people notice the preparation behind the scenes, the time she spends planning, organizing, helping others, or trying to improve herself. So when you say something like, "I can tell you put a lot of thought into this," or "You really give your best to what you care about," it shows that you value her dedication rather than just the outcome. Psychologically, this speaks to her sense of worth, because effort is tied to character, discipline, and responsibility, qualities that define who she is at a deeper level. When you acknowledge that, she feels respected and understood, not taken for granted, and that builds trust naturally. It also separates you from men who only react to results, because you are paying attention to the process, which makes your compliment feel sincere and thoughtful. Over time, she begins to associate you with appreciation and emotional support, which strengthens attraction in a steady and lasting way without pressure or manipulation. So, when you step back and look at everything we've talked about, you start to realize that attraction is not about clever lines or endless praise. It is about making a woman feel understood at a level most people never reach. Anyone can compliment beauty, anyone can flirt, anyone can try to impress, but very few men slow down enough to truly see her mind, her strength, her small, thoughtful habits, her calming presence, her authenticity, and the effort she puts into life every single day. And that is exactly why these compliments work, because they speak to her identity, not her image. When you focus on character instead of appearance, you create emotional safety. And when she feels safe, she naturally opens up. And when she opens up, connection forms without force. You are no longer chasing or performing, you are simply appreciating. And that quiet confidence is what makes you magnetic. Remember, the goal is never to manipulate feelings, it is to recognize value and express it honestly, because sincerity carries more power than any technique. Master this mindset. Speak less, but mean more. And you will notice something surprising. You won't have to convince her to like you. She will begin moving closer on her own, drawn not by words alone, but by how deeply you make her feel seen and understood.